Welcome back to the Devil May Cry Complete Story. The next chapter is an interesting one, as it's about the anime. Now I'm going to skim over what happened in it because honestly I can't show you any footage without fear of copyright, and how boring would it be to have an 8-minute long still image video. The events of the animated series take place after the first game in the series. Within the first episode, Dante is still a demon-slaying badass that saves a young girl named Patty, whom he finds has no home to return to. Over the course of the series, Dante treats this young girl as though she is his younger sister, or perhaps even his daughter. Lady arrives and we discover that ever since the events of Devil May Cry 3, she's been off hunting demons and comes to Dante to collect on what appears to be a never-ending debt. Trish also eventually arrives and gets Dante's help, and we discover that since the events of Devil May Cry 1, she decided to go on a demon-killing spree herself to break off on her own and get away from Dante's name. Eventually, Dante discovers that Patty's mother is the descendant of a human sorcerer who was once sealed away by the great demon Abigail. After defeating the great demon Abigail, things end with Dante, Trish, and Lady going off to kill the same demon. Whoever gets the kill shot will get the payment, and the young girl Patty comes back to continue cleaning up Dante's offices. It's a great anime that I thoroughly enjoyed and I actually watched a long time ago, and I wish we could go further into it, but like I said, I can't really put too much on here without getting a copyright strike. So let's go ahead and move on, because next up is Devil May Cry 4. Things begin with our hero, Nero, not Dante. He's a member of the Order of Sword, a religious cult that defeats monsters and demons in the name of Sparta, as they believe that Sparta slain the demon of their town centuries ago. Nero starts his adventure by running over to a ceremony that the Order of Sword is holding and hopes that he can catch his friend Kairi's song. But once he gets there, things get off to a heck of a kick-ass start as Dante comes crashing into the ceiling and slaughters the high priest of the Order during the ceremony, Sanctus. Nero feels that Kairi and himself are in danger and begins to attack Dante. Well, this is Dante, and he easily defeats Nero. That is until Nero's right arm changes into the Devil Bringer. Nero then turns the tables on Dante, impaling him with his own sword. But once Dante pulls himself off the sword, Nero says to him, "You're not human, are you?" And Dante tells him, "We're the same, you and I." And them. And Dante points to the demons that are approaching. Then Dante jumps out and says to Nero, "You carry something different from the others." And he leaves to finish his own personal mission. Nero gets back to his order and Credo, the leader of the Knights, and Kairi's brother charges him with chasing down Dante and bringing him in to answer for his crimes against the Order of Sword. Nero gets to work teaming up with Kairi and a new member of the Order, Gloria. Nero then discovers as he's going about his mission that Sanctus has been resurrected using dynamic powers, and we're introduced to Agnes, the scientist behind the Order of the Sword, using all of these dynamic powers. Well, Nero discovers this while hunting for Dante, and he stumbles across the experiments that Agnes has been conducting. While in the lab though, Nero awakens Yamato, Virgil's sword, and it flies off and lands in Nero's hands. And while wielding that sword and having a spectral blue demon over his head, Nero is allowed to survive the ascended Agnes's powers. Agnes then flees back to the central city and informs Credo of Nero messing with their plans. Credo says that he'll take care of this and gets infused with dynamic powers himself so he can fight against Nero. But Nero defeats him easily, and just as he's about to go for the kill shot on Credo, Kairi arrives. She sees Nero standing over her brother, ready to kill him. But while Kairi is confused, Agnes uses this to show up and kidnap her and run off. Credo gets up since Nero stopped beating on him, and he looks around and says, "I need to see what's going on," because Credo doesn't understand why Agnes just kidnapped his sister. Nero's next stop involves him seeing Dante once again, but this time, Nero really doesn't care. Except that this time, Dante was actually looking for Nero. He wants Yamato since it was his brother's sword. The two of them fight over the sword and Dante wins, but for some reason, he decides to let Nero keep Yamato. Gloria then catches up to the both of them, but we discover that Gloria is actually Trish. Still out to try and be better than Dante, isn't she? Eventually, Nero makes his way to Sanctus and the Savior, a giant demon that Agnes has been trying to awaken and tap into the power of. But they need the power of Sparta to awaken the Savior. They're also using Kairi as a human shield to keep Nero back, and they were trying to lure Dante here with Yamato, and that's why Yamato was here. But he's proven too difficult to capture. And hey look, Nero is apparently another descendant of Sparta, so apparently he'll have to do. Credo also arrives and tries to save both Kairi and Nero, but finds himself mortally wounded in the attempt. At least he tried. Things get crazy at this point as Dante also arrives and wants to get Yamato back once again. But Nero refuses, and the Savior grabs a hold of Nero and absorbs him. The Yamato hits the ground and Agnes ends up using it to open the Hell Gate, allowing hordes and hordes of demons into the city, while Sanctus and the Savior are trying to exterminate these demons. Dante looks around and realizes what a mess Nero has made, but a dying Credo begs Dante to save them. Dante takes off at top speed, killing anything in his path as he runs around closing the Hellgates and slaying demons. It's time for Dante to stop playing around and end this, folks. Once Dante gets back to the original Opera House, he slays Agnes and takes the Yamato back so he can destroy the final Hellgate. Dante then says, "Screw this," and jumps over to confront Sanctus and the Savior. He takes Yamato and he drives it into the chest of the Savior, while Nero grabs it and slices his way out of the Savior. Now that he's free, Nero uses the Devilbringer to finally defeat Sanctus and the Savior and save Kairi. Nero then stands in shock at everything that has just happened, but Dante walks over and leaves Nero with the Yamato. While Nero and Kairi would love to have their reunion, they find themselves interrupted by yet another demon attack. While back at the Devil May Cry shop, Trish, Lady, and Dante all sit down, getting ready for their next mission. One thing that I do want to mention before we close this out, and since I didn't mention it throughout the storyline, it is very heavily implied and even believed by the Sanctus character that Nero is the son of Virgil, which is why his powers are derived from Sparta. And on that note, I'm Benny for Eligible Monster, and I'll see you guys next time when we tell the last tale in this story.